Hello, it's Maggie Dent here. I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this panel because this whole issue around boys and their connection or their wound with their father is a massive influence on how well they grow up to be not only a healthy teenager, but a healthy man. So in my workshops over the years, I've not only worked with endless amounts of teenagers and boys, but also men's workshops. And it's been really interesting looking at the regrets that men have over the way their father fathered. And yet it was something that was socially very acceptable. So we need to recognize that punitive, challenging, shame-based, fear-based parenting was considered the best way to raise healthy children who knew right from wrong. It was particularly thought that unless you were firm and punished boys when they did things that were wrong, then he would never grow up to be a good man, and we couldn't be further from the truth. I have spent a lot of time saying unless we change the way that we are disciplining our little boys when they make poor choices, because very rarely it is an intentional choice, then we're going to create more and more angry boys. So when we shame them, hit them, exclude them, are sarcastic to them, make fun of them, we create a wound in their heart. And when it comes from the father, it's a different wound than when it comes from the mother. It's awful coming from either. But a boy looks up to his dad when he's a little boy, looking at how he can become a man. And they look through those beautiful little eyes, you know, because you're so big and so powerful in their eyes. So when a dad who has been raised with that parenting turns around and hits his son when he spills his drink, or when he's accidentally been too rough with his sister, or when he's lost his jumper, what we're doing is we are absolutely crushing his spirit. We are not teaching him anything. And one of the things I write about a lot is how boys' memories are really not very good. One of my sons was 8 years of age and came to me and said, "Mummy, where are the socks for school?" And I said, "We've had the same sock drawer for 15 years. Probably look in that one." So can you see, every now and then we still think that, there's this unconscious tendency and social norm that boys are deliberately being naughty when they jump off the roof of the garage, crash their bike, forget to put things away. And this is where I think many dads react rather than respond, because that's exactly what happened to them. And it's not easy to change that voice inside our head, that programming inside our head, but we absolutely have to. One of the other things that, one of the stories that nearly broke my heart when I was counselling was a boy came to me at 15 and he was really rebelling. He was smoking, doing drugs, getting out the window. He was being disrespectful. He was failing at school, and he was quite a bright boy. And really all underneath it was this unbridled rage that he had to his dad. Now, not only had his dad been like, okay, let me go back one step. Steve Biddulph writes about 4 kind of ways that dads can be not the father that boys need. And one is the king. So my way or the highway, you shall do as I say, right? Which is that old patriarchal system of who is king. The second one is the critical one. And all you ever do is criticizing what a boy does. It absolutely crushes their spirit and their creates a negative mindset that says they're hopeless, useless, dumb and stupid. The next one is passive. In other words, you do nothing. So you don't step up and give him the guidance he needs to learn to make better choices. And the fourth one he writes about is completely absent. So that's the father who, is never around, works really long hours. And if he's not working long hours, he's off playing his own sport. In other words, he's just not there. So you can see they're the 4 kind of group areas, and some kids will have some boys will have a dad who does 2 or 3 of those. So what happens is when a dad does not prioritize spending time with a boy, it feeds the message inside the boy that he's not enough. He's not good enough. He's not worthwhile enough. So as I step forward now to how do we overcome an obvious wound, maybe in boyhood, it's a lot harder in adolescence, but not impossible, is the first one is that we might need to come to our son one-on-one and say, look, I've just worked out that I'm not being the dad I wanted to be. I'm being the dad I had. My dad was tough and he was this and this. I didn't want to be that. And one of the things I say to fathers in the workshops I run is, I want you to go and think about, how can I be the dad I yearned for as a little boy? Tears. Every man in the room has instant tears. So again, call yourself to the place that says, I'm not being the father I want to be for my son, and I want to be better. We sit with our son. You might need food, bucket of chips or an ice cream, you know how to get boys to be, and say, okay, so can you give me 3 things that I need to work on that actually cause you pain, or things that you would like me to do better? And you'll need to write them down because dad will forget them as well. Okay, so the son helps to write the 3 things down, and you have to be brave not to be offended and wounded by what he will tell you. But if you're safe enough, he will tell you. So that gives you something to work on, which is exactly what men tend to be better at. Give me a plan, give me a problem, let me solve it. Then what we say to our son is, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks. Can we have another catch up? And let's see how I'm going. Give me a mark out of 10. And together they'll look at that worked and that one didn't, and this is, yep. And then we start moving forward. And before you know it, the relationship has just flipped. The very fact that you came with that says something profound to that boy. He can no longer think you can't love him if you've come with that message. And the second one is, we've got to prioritize significant connection time that is mutually beneficial. So if you've got a son who loves, building Minecraft or playing Minecraft, and you absolutely loathe digital games, then that's not going to be the way that you're going to build a bond if you sit there sighing and looking like you're absolutely having the worst time in the world. Being able to find that thing can sometimes be a bit tricky, but when you've found it, maybe you both need to go fishing and see if it works. Maybe you both need to get a bike and see if you like riding together. Yeah, even if it's riding all the way somewhere where you have something to eat and then you ride all the way home again. I've had dads tell me that they didn't realize that just cooking pancakes with their son could develop the bond that it can. So sometimes it's not necessarily a physical activity. It may be a cooking one. It may even be watching the same weirdo, funny videos that you enjoy on YouTube or something, where you laugh together. Because what we know is laughter is a huge language for boys and men, making each other laugh. And I think that's one of the things when I get dads to recognize it's part of their job to help encourage their son to develop a healthy sense of humor that isn't about sexist jokes, racist jokes, or inappropriate jokes. It's about wit. It's about irony, and it's about humor. And I think when you can actually share joke books and share jokes, they find them and tease each other. Dad jokes are a real thing for a real reason. So laughter is another bridge that you can use to rebuild that wound. Now, for those who have boys whose dads are completely absent in their life, and they may have a bonus dad, which is like a step parent. They may have a grandparent, but we've got to recognize that what the research shows is it's biologically, it does not have to be a biological relationship with a father figure. It is the essential necessity to have a loving, safe, consistent father figure. So for some, it may be, an elderly neighbour who shows an interest in your boy. It may be a teacher at school or a coach. But we also sometimes have to go to those men and say, is there any chance you might be able to kind of take a step forward for my son, because he's kind of, he's needing a male role model, a male figure. Don't have to take them on for life. But there are certain stages that when a boy sees a man smile at him or put his thumb up or wave at him, it shifts something deep inside about their worth and their value. So I hope that's given you a few clues on how a wound can be so profound, starting really early, just from something like that used to be accepted, like teasing, making fun of, laughing at, being really critical about. Those things can crush a little boy's heart and soul before he's 5. And then he can have a dad in the house who's crushed him, and he needs to rebuild those things. And they can do it in so many ways. So I hope that's been helpful for you. And thank you for everything you're doing for the boys and the families who have boys in your area and your communities.